Okay. Sitting in a room, alone, talking to myself. So just a regular night. Anyway, welcome. My name's Dustin. I'm a solo game developer, and I'm working on a sneaking game with a recognizable classic style, and I'd like to tell you a little about it. As you can see, the character has a few states, some skeletal animations, and he can flatten himself against any wall. The camera also moves dynamically and can be influenced by the player's control. It's a little primitive, but from here I should be able to build on items, inventory, AI, and maybe even bosses. Or at least start working on outlining how they'll probably end up working. Do some testing and that sort of thing. This game uses an engine that I built from scratch, but it's not the first time I've built a game engine. This is actually the second one I've made, but it will be the first time I've ever made a game. You see, I fell into the same old trap, the one that you hear about constantly when you look up how to make a game engine. I started making tools, complex deferred rendering with dynamic lighting, shadows, normal maps, tons of additional code that I was never going to use, dynamic terrain generation, noise generators. It turned into a large amount of stuff. It could do cool things, but it didn't have what I needed to build a game quickly, or the way I even wanted to make a game. At one point, I built a native material node graph shader generator UI completely from scratch, and just, uh, it's too much. I'm just one guy. I can't build a game and the tools and then hand code all of my shaders with a UI. I can't do it. So I decided to scrap that. Most of that, rather. I was able to bring over a decent chunk of the code I've written. Things like types, their related operators, and a few functions. But I've changed the core of my new engine to be an entity component system versus the first engine, which was a scene graph. Getting into what the differences of those are it's pretty simple actually. A scene graph is a tree-like structure of nodes. Each node might have children and almost always has a parent. When you update your scene, you loop through these one at a time. It's extremely fast, efficient, and it's pretty much the way most early 3D games worked. But more and more modern games are switching to ECS, or Entity Component System, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a bunch of entities with components and systems that drive them. In this situation, you don't relate objects to each other by parenting them. You simply loop through a list and update any of the elements that you, as a system, find interesting. Another big change I made was strongly favoring the game engine itself for my tools. I was building a lot of external tools, apps and scripts and command line utilities to manage my last engine, and it wasn't really all that helpful. So for this engine, I decided I was going to build an editor right into the engine itself. Um, I wanted to just sit down at my desk, pick up the controller, and spend a few hours designing levels without needing to drag the mouse around through 100 different applications and worry about exporting different things, updating things, and recompiling the entire game just to see it change and play through it. So what I came up with is this nice little system where I have tile-like objects. I can move them around, I can move the camera around with the controller, I can stamp them down, nice and quick. It's sort of tiled right now on a grid, but it's not actually required. There are other object types that are completely different shapes. They're also snapping to a grid, but again, they can be any shape I want. This is just sort of a testing phase to get everything working. So we can make a quick level, nothing too complicated. And then we can just play. It immediately drops your character in, you can move around, collision is fully responsive and working. The engine in real time built all of this geometry into buffer objects. If I go into the debug menu here, I can turn on collision, and you can see all of the orange triangles are real collision objects. They can differ from whatever the stamp brush happens to be at the time. So I can create invisible walls or whatever I need. And if we want to edit, we can just go back to edit. The camera gets positioned back to 0. I'm gonna work on that. We have the brush again. Can make a wall. As soon as we put the wall down, there you go, collision. But being able to do this with a controller rather than having to sit in like Blender for hours at a time measuring each triangle to make sure it's the right unit length for the character to walk through, and exporting the whole model, compiling the model for the engine, and then running it just so that I can walk around. It's just too much of a waste of time. So I figured investing the time into making this editor quick, easy, and just fun to use would have a good impact on my level design in general. Since I am new to actually making a game, I am a little concerned, and I didn't want the process of actually building the level to take away from any creativity that I would want to invest in it. The next thing I'll probably work on will be doors. That's what I'm thinking anyway. What's interesting about the doors is they are part static geometry, part dynamic object, and they'll also need action triggers, so lots of changes. Being able to stamp all 3 of those types down in the editor with a single click is going to be important. And being able to customize which door texture is used will also probably make its way to other objects. Being able to change the color of walls and things, that's going to need to happen. So I'll probably work on doors next. It's going to be a lot of work, but nothing but fun. Nothing but fun. Anyway, that's it for this video. I do apologize for the audio quality. I don't have equipment for doing this. I'm going to try to invest in a microphone that's at least designed for voiceovers in the future. But yeah, thanks for watching.